And as he makes his way on stage, I must tell you the Slido code for the session is hashtag PMLND1. Thank you. Kimo, over to you.
Thank you so much, Zenia. Thank you. Well, good morning. Good morning. Or I would like to say, I'd like to start with the name, by saying aloha. So you see, I am from Hawaii, and so I'd like to just, I wanted to share with you what aloha means. So I'd like you, if you will, it goes something like this, aloha. It's actually 2 syllables. The first syllable in aloha is alo, which means to give, and ha means life. So when I say aloha, what it actually means is that I'm giving you my life. It's another word for saying hello, goodbye. It also means love. Can you hear me? Okay, so it means to give you my life. So I would like to say aloha. So you try it. Aloha. Ha. Aloha. Aloha, and then we'd say good morning, we say aloha kakiaka, which means good morning. How are you? Pehea oi. I am well. Mai kaino. So just to say a very warm greeting. I cannot tell you how excited and thrilled I am to be here, to be able to share with you some thoughts about the future of learning and where we're going. I very much appreciated Esther's opening around the ability to see something different. So what I hope to be able to share with you today is really setting the context for what we're going to be talking today. I have a great deal of content to share with you. There are lots of slides, but I will tell you that all of these slides I've made available so that you can get them after the conference as well. So I hope that helps. So let's get started. This is where I'm from. I'm from the island of Oahu. I'm from the town of Kaneohe or Kailua, and it's on the windward side of Oahu in the Hawaiian Islands. It's a long way from here, but it was a very long trip to get here, and I can't get to tell you how excited I am to be here. This is what I would like to share with you about myself, and these are some thoughts. My purpose in life is to know significant and unconditional love. My aspirational vision is to be a citizen, or I aspire to be a citizen of the world. And I can't tell you how excited I am to be here in Mumbai, to be able to do that, to be here. So pinch me and tell me that it's true. I'm basically this little boy from Hawaii, and to be standing in front of you here in Mumbai is like a dream come true. It truly is a dream. Not to mention the food. The food is really good. My wife lived in this part of the world for many years and grew up here, and so we eat lots of Indian food. So my favorite dessert is ras malai, and my favorite other dessert is gulab jamun. And I was flying on the plane, and they even had achar. So I was like, this is pretty good. They even had achar. We had butter chicken, which was also very good too. So I'm very content to be in this part of the world. The food is good. My mission in life, if you will, is to be able to create greater access to learning. How do we create greater access to learning? Increase literacy around the world. Increase access to education. And if we do that, what we will do is change the generations of future generations to come. It's a real significant difference if we make access to education. And for many of you that are in the corporate space, how you are able to provide learning and development for your people will make a difference, not only in their engagement, but for their future generations. So what I want to talk to you today is around lifelong learning. So with that, I have a quick agenda. These are what we're going to, I'm going to maybe just set some context. I want to give you the big picture of what's kind of going on in our space. And then I want to share some thoughts around the future, and then talk to you about this notion of having a growth mindset, as well as this notion around thinking about being agile. How do we continue to be really agile and an entrepreneurial mindset to frame us for the day? By the way, I'll also be doing a master class later this afternoon. And again, I would love to be able to, I'm just going to tell stories. And through those storytelling, I'll hope to give you some pictures or a sense around the importance of leadership in our world today. And then last, we'll just end about what are some lessons learned. I've had the pleasure of being the Chief Learning Officer for both Marriott International and for Hilton. And so, you know, we're working in a very large-scale organization. I have to say, being in this part of the world, to visit a Taj hotel was also very good, and to visit an Oberoi hotel was also very good. So it's great to be able to see these hotels. By the way, this Hyatt is also quite nice too. Quite nice. So I want to really set the mindset for your experience here today, thinking about the difference between having a fixed mindset, which would be on your left, and that of having a growth mindset, which would be on your right. So you can see that, and this is what Esther was talking about earlier this morning. You can see what a fixed mindset is. I won't read all that to you, but it's avoiding challenges, is that when you make a mistake, you are wrong, and that you ignore feedback. You view feedback as being negative, and you feel threatened by other people's success. What we want to think about is on having a growth mindset. And that is that it's a positive frame for the future. That we're focused on everyone's growth and continued development and getting better. And by people getting better, they're improving the world. And when you make a mistake, it's actually, and Esther mentioned this as well, it's actually about learning. And that's what we want to talk about, is learning and being curious. I was in Microsoft, I was in Seattle a couple weeks ago, and the CEO there, Satya Nadella, is the CEO. He's trying to really transform the whole company and really getting it to think differently. And what he's really focused on is having a growth mindset. In Microsoft, you would be rewarded for being a know-it-all. And what they're really trying to change at Microsoft now for the future is to be a learn-it-all. Really focus on being a learn-it-all organization, to be agile, to be quick. Not necessarily more of a fixed mindset, but more of a growth mindset. By the way, the author that's really coined this phrase, her name is Carol DeWick, and she has written the book called The Growth Mindset. It's really quite good. So that's the framework that we want to set all about, and Esther mentioned that earlier this morning, that we want to set the conversation up for. So this is our first survey. So if you go to Slido, you're going to go to slido.com. You need to go into use your phones. You need to go to slido.com. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you see your organization? Do you see it as a fixed, or do you see it as more of a growth mindset? Fixed or growth mindset? So you see and you can see, join us at slido.com. It's hashtag PMLND1. You can see the numbers are coming in on your surveys. Numbers are still coming in. Okay, so you can see pretty positive that overall, generally speaking, there's about a 24% of you rated it a 7. Generally speaking, the group would say that it's generally speaking more of a notion of having a growth mindset. So what I'd also like you to think about is, how do you look on this on a maturity curve? I've set this up that the bottom of the chart is, and I work with Deloitte, and this came from Deloitte, from Burson, and you can see the different levels. So that first level is incidental training, where training just happens more randomly. The next level is that the learning department operates very well. The next level of maturity is that it thinks around organizational talent management, organizational improving talent performance, and then the highest level is where it's creating more org capability. So the question for you all is, where do you see your organization? Are you more at that level 1 incidental, level 2, or level 3, or level 4? Where do you see your organization? So you can see the different levels we talked about. What I'd like you to do is to do another survey using Slido to rate your organization. Do you see your organization as a level 1, a level 2, a level 3, or a level 4? Where do you see your organization? Please use the Slido survey and we'll get some feedback there. Working? Can we go back to the survey? Okay. So where do you see your organization? Okay. Here we go. Okay, the information is coming in. The majority of we have between a level 2 and a level 3, 37% for a level 2 and about 35% for a level 3. By the way, I've conducted this survey. I've had the opportunity to travel extensively around the world, and that's where most organizations are. They're somewhere between, between a 2, a high 1, a 2, or a beginning of getting into a 3. So there's what I'm really trying to say is there's lots of opportunity for the future. So moving forward, I'd like to go back to the slides. I'd like us to think about, just give you some quick context around what's going on in the world. How do we think about, in this very, very interesting times and very busy times, what ability do we have to project for the future? And one of the things that's really taken place is this, everything is now being enabled by technology, and really having this really very strong focus on technology and thinking digitally. So we have this notion of discussions around artificial intelligence, robots, VR, AR, all converging together, and really this whole notion of predictive analytics that we can think about for the future. So these are this is some of how digital transformation is taking place extensively. What's going on in terms of artificial intelligence and robotics, that in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, just as an example, they have a citizen of their country who's actually a robot. Her name is Sophia. This is in Japan. I actually visited this hotel. This is a completely robotic hotel. You check in, you talk to a robot, everything is done completely by a robot. Now for me, that's a little icky. It's not so comfortable. But it's very interesting that you would be able to have a complete robotic experience using and checking into this hotel. You can know that Uber and others and Google are working very hard to have cars that will be driverless, and you can see the technology is quickly advancing on this front. And look at the work, for example, that Tesla's doing. In the retail space, Amazon, Walmart, all the large big box players are looking at how they can use automation to completely operate all of their stores and their warehouses around the world. With Amazon, for example, we have Amazon Prime, which is you have to pay about $120 to be able to get your items in about 2 clicks to make it a completely frictionless experience. And so you actually pay more so that you can spend more. You actually pay more so that you can spend more. So with all the change that's taking place, and I want to go to another quick slide of poll, are you feeling optimistic about the future, or are you feeling more pessimistic about the future? Optimistic or pessimistic? Want to get a sense of where you see yourselves. Okay, this is great news. I'm positive about this. Having an 87% indication of feeling optimistic for the future, that's excellent. And when I think about India and the potential and the success throughout history that this country has had, that I just think about the future of what is awaiting. Just look at Mumbai alone with 20 million people and think about the opportunities for the future. That fact that you're optimistic says a lot about the future for the rest, I believe, for the rest of the country. So I'd like to go back to the slides. And what I'd like to now talk to you a little bit is about what's going on in the shift of talent management. Basically is that we are overwhelmed. There's that notion you may have heard of VUCA. It's volatile, it's uncertain, it's complex, and it's ambiguous. We are overwhelmed by technology, everything coming at us at the same time. There's so much going on. There's also this war for talent. In fact, it's believed that we have lost that war for talent. That we cannot, there is not enough developed and skilled talent around the world to take the jobs that we need for the future, for the jobs that we don't even know exist yet. That you probably have heard of, from an artificial intelligence perspective, that 50% of all jobs that we know today are actually going to not exist in about 20 years. 50% of all jobs that we currently do today will not exist in the future because of artificial intelligence, AR, and VR. So this war for talent is a big deal of how do we attract, develop, and retain great talent. So we have to think about performance and how do we design it, more importantly, redesign it and continually change it for the future. There's this whole notion of employee mobility, that our employees can be all over the world. I was talking to Esther earlier and to the convention planners, to Meghna as well. Some live in Singapore, some live here, some live in Delhi. You know, basically they have operations all over the world. You know today that parts of jobs can be done all over the world. So work is actually being distributed from all over the world in little chunk-sized pieces. For example, I know that when I have an X-ray done in the United States, that work is actually sent to be read here in India, and then those results are sent back. That type of work is taking place all over the world, that it's being broken down into smaller chunks, and it's being outsourced to other parts of the world. So I love this slide. It's a bit dense, but I just wanted to just share with you that these are the 6 forces for the demand for talent around automation, big data, access to information and ideas, simplicity in complexity, agility and innovation, and then new customer strategies. So you can take this from the slides as well, around what's shaping the demand for talent. Now on the other side, here's around the supply for talent. There's a new demographic mix, millennials, Gen Z that you've heard about. There are lots of skill imbalances that are taking place, that there's shifting geopolitical and economic things are also shifting a great deal, that diversity and inclusion are a key success for our future, more inclusion, that there's this sense that we want to be entrepreneurs, a sense of greater individualism, and then last, a focus on purpose. Why are we all here? Why are you here? Why do you do what you do? So that means, if that's happening from a talent management perspective, what's really going on from a learning perspective? So here are some big shifts. I'm not going to read this to you, but you can look at the days when it was all about learning administration to where we are now. So you can look at this last end, learning for the unit of one, where it's all about the user experience. It's about how I want it. Look at these, this is today's learner. What do you notice about all those statements? What do you notice? It all starts with I. I want to learn more from my phone. I want to learn from videos. I want to use AI to be able to learn from. I want to simulate experiences. I want to Google what I need to learn. It's about it's about me and that user experience. Today's learner, I learn what's important to me. I learn from my development. I learn because it matters to me. I learn for my success. I learn to fulfill my dreams. I learn to fulfill my purpose. Again, those are all I statements about the user experience for the learner. That's what we need to focus on. Therefore, I am a lifelong learner. This month's edition for the Harvard Business Review is on curiosity. The need to be able to stay focused and to stay curious is one of the key ingredients for success and, to be honest, a long life and longevity. This is the shift that's taking place. Again, I'm not going to share this with you, but where it's shifting to is this notion from the past, which is around, again, a lot of it was around learning administration, to the future, the modern learning or ecosystem, and where that star is where we want to be. Very strongly focused on the user experience. Again, what's going on with the user? How do we make that more engaging? How do we make that more mobile? How do we digitize that and make more use of videos? How do we make it more based in simulations, more AR or more VR, virtual reality or augmented reality, to be able to do that? This is where you want to be in the sweet spot, where these three things converge. The social, having a very strong social component to it, formal and immediate and relevant. In the center of that is where you want to be, where those three intersect: social, formal, and immediate. This is probably one of my favorite slides. In order for learning to be successful, it must have these 9 things. It must have these 9. It must be chunked, small pieces. It must be autonomous, stand alone, and be able for the user to intersect with it. It must be linked, hyperlinked. It must be current and relevant. It must be accessible 24/7. And that's mobile, that's video, that's auditory, as well as K, which is kinesthetic. I have to see it, I have to feel it, I have to touch it, I have to experience it. It must be experiential. It must be social, and the last is it has to be personal and customized to the unit of one. Customized to the unit of one. Again, 9 components of what make great learning. If I were to add a 10th one to this, it would be that the learning must be embedded in the process of your job. The learning must be embedded in the process of your job. So it's because here's what happens. If I have to click out to go do something, what's going to happen? I'm not going to do it. I don't have the time to click out. I don't have the time to go over there. So it has to be embedded in the workflow of the process in order for it to be successful. That would be the 10th one I would add. So we think of agility. We start with this notion of curriculum, on-the-job experience, coaching, collaboration, advancement opportunities, development for people, lots of coaching and feedback, lots of diversity and inclusion, creating a lifelong learning culture. This is what I aspire to be able to do in organizations that I work with, is to help them to have a learner-centric environment, culture that really bleeds that whole sense of learning. So to create an agile mindset, we need 4 components. That would be to 1, delight customers, 2, descale the work into small chunks, 3, be able to do this from an enterprise global-wide perspective, and 4th, have a very nurturing culture. Taking those into individual pieces. The first one is to delight customers. The shift is going from that the company is in the center to the shift is about it's the customer that's in the center for everything that we do. Be able to descale work, to break them down into small chunks, and to be able to have that work descaled and in fact, again, be done anywhere in the world. Next, we want to be able to have that ability from an enterprise perspective and have that done on a global basis. So are you truly a global organization? Are you truly where that work, again, is being done enterprise-wide? That also implies a very flat organization. And then the last one is, how do you create and build a culture that continues to focus on the learner, continues to focus on the employee to drive greater engagement? To drive greater engagement and higher levels of trust in the organization, which leads to better performance, which also leads to better retention. So how do we connect a growth mindset, an agile mindset, having an entrepreneurial mindset, all leading to better performance, all leading to better performance? I've had the opportunity to work quite a bit in this space, and these are some of the lessons that I would want to share with you that I've learned. First of all, executive sponsorship, having your boss's commitment, having the organizational senior leadership's commitment is critical to the success for learning. Having the right people in the right places is really important, and to move that talent around the world would also be important. How do we continue to nurture a growth mindset? And then how do we never take our eyes off of the most important thing, which is our customer? Again, that the customer is king. And that, lastly, we want to have the courage to disrupt the current status quo, to change things, to make them better, to have that entrepreneurial mindset. So if I were to put this all together, how do we create, again? So thinking about it, where agile organizations, you need to be agile to stay focused for the future. This is critical. Speed is the new currency. Are you really moving fast? I worked for an organization before that you had to have it perfect before you sent it out. That's changing. The last organization I worked with, they were very, very focused on just get it out the door. Kimo, get it out the door. 80% is good enough. Get it out the door. We can fix it when we send it out later. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. Just send it out. It's going to be okay. Because speed matters. Speed really matters. Cultures that align this to focused around growth and having a growth mindset will be successful, and that we must pause and reflect. Learning happens in reflection. Learning happens in reflection. And the last piece is recognizing and celebrating our people and celebrating our successes that we work with together. So what can you do now? You are all learning leaders. Set the example. Build a learning culture, a learning ecosystem. Celebrate lifelong learning. And then the last is communicate openly. To describe this, I love this, and I took this from Degreed, by the way, that if we expect our workers to solve business challenges, what we then need to do is to create and curate experiences. If we expect our workers to find things, to be able to do that quickly, where speed is the new currency, we need to help to manage and empower their activities. And last, if we want to help people, if we expect to grow and our businesses to grow, then we need to track and guide those insights that we're seeing within the business and what we learn from the organization through all the big data that we're getting. So these are some closing thoughts. Be a curious lifelong learner. Be a curious lifelong learner. Be appreciative. It's all about paying it forward and that whole notion of just really living aloha. And with that, I just wanted to share, this is a picture of my parents. They both passed. But I will share kind of putting this all together from from having a perspective around a growth mindset. I worked, when I was very young, I worked at the animal quarantine station in Hawaii. We don't have rabies in Hawaii, which is a disease. And so any dog or cat coming into the state of Hawaii has to go through this 120-day quarantine. And I was the doggy chef. I would come in as a student, working on weekends. I came in and I made about 1,500 pounds of dog food. I got there at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, I'm driving to work in my Volkswagen. I was 17, and it was about 2:30 in the morning, and I'm driving to work, and I hit the car next to me, and I got into an accident. And so this was before cell phones, but when I got to the quarantine station, of course, it was really dark, and I called my dad, and I said, "Dad, I've got some good news, and I've got some bad news." And my dad said, "Are you okay? And is everybody okay?" And I said, "Yes, I'm fine, and everybody's fine." Then he said, "Kimo, there is no bad news." So it's that notion of really that growth mindset, that it's all going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. And so for that, I knew, like right then and there, that I was significantly and unconditionally loved. And for that, I am truly grateful. And again, I'm grateful to have the opportunity to be here with you today. I wish you only and all the success in the world for your future to come, and I hope to see you later this afternoon as well. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
What a powerful session to begin with. Ladies and gentlemen, we would love to, do a...
After that, I'm going to come to all of you to really hear what are the challenges at the ground level that you will want Rajiv to comment on. Whether he will have a silver bullet, I'm not sure, but at least he can bring some perspective. So I'm going to come to you very soon in another few minutes to gather those challenges. So Rajiv, let's start with the first question on the optimism that we saw in the group. 87% of us said, I see the future with optimism.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean from your perspective of where are the opportunities for learning leaders today to really help increase productivity, innovation, and collaboration in our business?
Yeah. So, for me, learning is from every moment of life.
Yeah.
Every interaction, everything one sees, one hears. So I'm delighted to see that it is, and thank God for India that we are full of optimistic people, because I believe that if you don't have hope, there is no life. So first of all, I agree with that. because that's my view, that there is learning in everything, provided we are not in that fixed mindset. And the problem, and that problem I think becomes more acute as we go up in the organization ladder. We are almost afraid to admit that we need to learn more.
Yeah.
And people around us also are afraid to tell us that you need to learn more. So for us in Mahindra, the need to learn, the awareness, the desire, and the humility that we don't know it all,
Yeah.
and it's not the job of a leader to know it all, but more to ask questions, to unleash the potential of people. That is the mindset that we have. And therefore, I was delighted to see the presentation that you made and the one that Kimo made.
Yeah.
And I am optimistic that as long as we are aware, and that's almost obvious, look
Yeah.
at the VUCA world, everything is changing. So as long as we are aware, as long as we have the desire to learn, as long as we have the persistence. Now that's really important. I think, and I think Kimo mentioned that, we are being bombarded by information. And the problem is that we are getting distracted and we are losing our ability to be mindful and to go deep. And that's one major problem, because we need to focus. There is no end to it. You pick up any subject, you pick up any newspaper, there are hundreds and thousands of inputs that bombard you. But we need to have some stillness in the mind to